Just wanted to talk, that's all.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. The off-season continues, unfortunately. We were just talking. Welcome to Andy Martino. He was mentioning how much he misses working on covering the off-season. Andy, is this a tough time to watch baseball and not be in the ballpark?
Look, it's so much more fun to be there. Last year, I was bouncing back and forth round after round for the Yankees and the Mets, both teams that I cover. And the Yankees are playing at home tonight. I'll catch this one, then I'll drive to Philly for the NLDS tomorrow. And then, of course, beyond the Mets elimination, the Yankees ending up in the World Series. And that's great action. It's great fun. We're told when we cover or, in your case, root for regular season games, it doesn't matter. It's 1 of 162. And the thing about the postseason is they can't pretend that it doesn't matter. Every pitch, every decision, every moment is worth scrutinizing. And so that's really a lot of fun to follow a team around the country and do that. So like we were saying before we went on, I have different reasons for being down about it. I'm not a Yankee or a Met fan, of course, but I'm a fan of covering great baseball. So I'd rather be doing that for sure.
Well, I will say this. Some of the best baseball that we've seen in recent years has happened this postseason. I mean, that game between the Tigers and the M's was amazing. And then, Blue Jays M's has been good so far. But I want to talk a little bit about the Yankees because this is a Yankees podcast. And we'll start in the outfield because there's been a lot of talk already about, Cody Bellinger. He opted out. He had a good year, makes a lot of money. Kyle Tucker is a free agent. We know that the Yankees have had their eyes on him for a long time, and he's got great metrics, but his statistics were not quite as good this year as Cody Bellinger, which is worth noting. How are we looking at this winter? Do you think the Yankees are going to be aggressive in trying to bring back Cody Bellinger, or do you think that they're going to maybe try and get a little bit younger and go for the bigger star, who is Kyle Tucker?
I know they want Bellinger. That doesn't preclude necessarily them wanting to consider a Tucker as well. But I will say this, Derek, that I don't think they're going to have sign both, but I don't think it's at this point, this early. And I want to stress, we're talking at a time when the Yankees haven't had their pro scouting meetings yet, which is the beginning of every offseason, which is when they really kind of formulate their plan for free agency. I mean, they've had meetings internally on free agents since probably August, September is per normal. But when they really set the course for an offseason is the pro scouting meeting. So until they have that, I feel like I can't really ask my sources definitively, who do you like, Tucker or Bellinger? Because they haven't discussed that yet. So I want to put that out there for every kind of topic that we hit in one way, shape, or form. They haven't had those scouting meetings yet. Having said that, Bellinger is the absolute perfect ideal of the good ways in which the Yankees have remade themselves over the past couple of years. Omar Minaya, who's not the only person that deserves credit for this, but has come in and has really been pounding the table with Brian Cashman and the rest of the front office about getting more athletic. And, long gone are the days when we're watching Gleyber Torres throw to Luke Voigt in the infield, or we're watching Stanton in the outfield for the most part, or, they've really become a team of better athletes, which is where the game is going more broadly, and something that Omar personally has stressed with the Yankees. They became better by losing Soto, strangely enough, and part of that is because of the athleticism and the defense, all of which is a rather long-winded way to say that Cody Bellinger fits them absolutely perfectly. And Tucker's a guy who's a corner guy now who you could be having a DH conversation about within a few years, and that's not where the Yankees need to go. Tucker's an upgrade offensively over the course of his career. You correctly mentioned this year when he was injured, in fairness, for some of it, numbers weren't as good as Bellinger's, but you're probably looking at offensive upgrade there. But I think it's a real slam dunk that it's not worth the downgrade in defense, and not to mention it'll cost more.
Yeah, I agree with you. If it was my money, and it's not, I would probably go after Cody Bellinger. I like that he changes his approach with two strikes, something that not a lot of Yankees do. You saw a lot of those two-strike base hits, just a line drive over the shortstop. That's what we used to see, and that's what I appreciate. And also the fact that he can play 4 positions well defensively, I think is something that is rare, and it has a lot of value. I mean, if somebody needs a day off, it allows you to reconfigure your lineup a little bit and still not lose a lot defensively, which is important. I want to talk about Judge. He conquered his postseason demons statistically. You know, he had a big home run. He also had a big strikeout or whatever. But the thing I'm mostly concerned about is the elbow. He missed some time this year. They were gingerly treating that, but he did throw a ball 92 miles an hour in the playoffs. Like he was kind of just showing the world, okay, I can do this still. But we don't know how he feels. We don't know how the Yankees necessarily feel about it. Do you suspect that there's a chance he could be getting surgery this offseason?
He made it sound like it on the way out after they lost in the division series. He didn't make it sound like it was going to be a major surgery necessarily, but he was asked directly about that, and he said, we'll probably – I don't remember the exact quote, but it was along the lines of like, yeah, we'll probably do something. We'll have to look at that. I'm not a doctor. You know, sort of not really answering the question. No, I'm good. Healed. I'm fine. That's definitely not what we heard. So – the Yankees and their fans, of course, just have to hope that that's a little bit of a cleanup or something and not anything to do, speculatively speaking, with the ligament or whatnot. And the reason I'm even comfortable using the word ligament when there's nothing there to suggest that's what's going on is because when this first happened in July, the Yankees brass kind of thought that Judge was having Tommy John. That was the real fear in Yankee land for a couple of days until the tests showed. Well, we don't know exactly what the test showed, so let's be clear about that. But they at least showed that he didn't need Tommy John immediately. I'm not saying that that's on the table right now. I'm just saying that we don't know exactly what's on the table. And it's not just reporters either. Judge doesn't like to talk about his health or injury updates in season with the coaching staff, the manager, the front office, anybody. It's like what I've heard is it's like, hey, Judge, how you feeling today? I'm good. I'm fine. Like, let's go work. So I can't even say that internally they have a great perception of how he felt through this process of being back on the field. So I would say it's fair for Yankee land to await, if not anxiously await, what the actual news drops on what he needs to do.
It's worth keeping an eye on. Another thing we're keeping an eye on is Anthony Volpe. Now, you wrote an article the other day that I read, and I kind of agree with. The Yankees have a tough decision to make with Anthony Volpe. Now, he played a lot of the season with a torn labrum. They say it's kind of an old injury. And he had a really down year in terms of batting average and getting on base, which is something that, you know, like it or not, fans look to, whether or not the Yankees think much about those statistics. He played better against Boston. He played great defensively throughout the entire postseason. But the ALDS is what's going to be fresh in people's mind. 1 for 15 with 11 strikeouts. And really, when you got to 2 strikes against Anthony Volpe, it was kind of an automatic out. I mean, it was just he didn't look confident. The swings were not good. I don't know how many times he threw his bat, more than once. So what are your thoughts on whether or not the Yankees will consider Anthony Volpe the starting shortstop? Is it one of these situations where he's going to basically have a chance to be like a rookie again, where he has to earn the shortstop job in spring training? And who else could be out there to compete with him? We know Lombard's not ready. He's still a couple years away. He didn't exactly tear the cover off the ball in the minor leagues. You know, Caballero's a guy with an under 700 OPS, despite having a ton of stolen bases, so that doesn't jump off the screen. What are your thoughts on the whole situation?
Well, my top line thought is Anthony Volpe shouldn't be assumed to be the shortstop of the future of next year. And the Yankees in those pro scouting meetings need to have a real, honest, frank discussion with each other about, is this really the direction we can keep going in? That's fair. Anthony Volpe's earned that, unfortunately, or whatever the opposite of earned is, you know, from his performance. It's time to have that thought and have that conversation. But as you mentioned, there it's not so easy. Is to be a fan can be like, get rid of this bum. That's the fan's job. The front office's job, of course, is to be like, okay, what are we going to do that we're better? I mentioned in that article too, like 20 home run hitting shortstop with decent defense, except, you know, there's obviously some defensive issues this year, but overall an okay defender. I wouldn't call him a Gold Glove defender, even though that's literally true. But they have to make sure that they have a better alternative, and they might get caught in a little bit of a no man's land there because, like you mentioned, I don't think they have anybody in the organization. Certainly, that's not Lombard's not ready. think there's a reason. We should look, as far as Caballero goes, really closely at why wasn't he the starting shortstop in the playoffs? Because even though there were even some people in that organization that would have done that, but the reason that Aaron Boone decided to stick with Volpe through the playoffs was a little bit of faith in Volpe, I guess, but mostly about we're the best team, he's thinking, when Volpe's starting and when Caballero's my Swiss Army knife on the bench. The pinch runner, the defensive replacement, the guy that can play third sometimes, the guy that can do all kinds of different things. And if you lock him in as your starting shortstop, well, what's Volpe? He's not accustomed to any of those roles. So the best thing, even if Volpe's suboptimal, is to have a starting shortstop and Caballero. That's I think the best way to use Caballero. And you're absolutely right to mention the fact that he's never been a hitter, Caballero. But what he is a guy who knows how to play shortstop. It's a shame that Oswald Peraza didn't develop, because he's that guy too. You put him out at shortstop and you're like, whoa, what was that throw? Like after watching Volpe for a couple of years. And there's just a presence at that position that Volpe doesn't always have. So the Yankees need to look around. There's no obvious free agents. Obviously, there are always trade possibilities that we haven't thought of. But I think they need to be open-minded and exploring that this winter for sure. Maybe it ends with Volpe's our best option, but they need to look into it.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the same thing. I think that they might just be forced to give him one more shot. You mentioned the arm strength. That's something that really stood out to me when the Yankees picked up Caballero. Is it was like a pinball machine. Ground ball is short, and boom, it takes off towards first base. Whereas Volpe, it really seemed like he had to put a lot of effort in the throws to get it across. Whereas, some of those guys, Peraza, you mentioned, just a nice loose arm motion, and the ball just sails, chest high across the infield. I think that's something that, the Yankees could benefit from, just a little bit more of a natural fielding shortstop. A lot of people have always felt that Volpe profiles better as a second baseman. Just his body type, coming up, he kind of had that Pedroia look, and he has that Pedroia type of approach where he's swinging very, very hard. Are there concerns about his ability to, what type of hitter he wants to be? I know fans would prefer he did something like hit 250, 260 with less power, right, and get on base and use his legs, whereas the Yankees are really looking at, we think this guy can hit the ball 430 feet. Let's let him try and do it.
Look, they want him to have more of an approach, of course. He'd be a better player if he did. But to hit 250, 260 with fewer home runs, in order to ask Anthony Volpe to do that, really commit to that, the Yankees would have to change the entire pay structure of the sport, right? I mean, he'd be pretty stupid to chase batting average at a time when home runs get you paid. I hate to say it, but that's like, there's no incentive to become that player if you're any player.
What about winning?
The guy you just that's not an incentive. To the extent the money is.
I think that's the problem there with the modern game. Winning not an incentive, but
I'm being somewhat facetious, but truly, if you're looking to earn your living in the game and you could chase batting average or chase power, 9.9 guys out of 10 are going to choose the latter. And a team might. There are teams that would make the argument that that's also you out homer another team, you win. So I'm not making it as binary, like as winning versus money, but when we talk about batting average at a time when that's never been less valued in the sport, that'd be a tough thing to have him go after. I think.
I want to talk a little bit about the first base situation, because somebody who really stepped up this year was obviously Ben Rice. 26 home runs, had a big home run in the postseason. Metrically, he looks amazing. I mean, he's near the top of the chart in almost everything. This is a guy who could have a real future. Now, he also catches. They have Austin Wells, so I think that they're probably aiming towards him being the everyday first baseman. But you're losing something with Goldschmidt, right? Because he hit lefties very well. Rice doesn't hit lefties quite as well. Who do the Yankees potentially see as somebody who could supplement Rice as the first baseman, maybe against some of those tough lefties? Is there someone out there that could do the job? Is this a situation where maybe Judge takes some reps at first base and you play him at first next year? That saves the arm a little bit, and it allows you to maybe get some more flexibility in the outfield. What's the solution that you think that the Yankees should look at for first base?
Knowing the Yankees, I don't know if they're going to be as concerned with platoon splits at first as they will be with defense. And so in the Yankee way, so to speak, which is literally a ranking that they developed in the 80s of the most important tools for each position, and have tried to keep as their North Star in the 40 some years since. They believe that first base defense is really important. It's the third highest quality, I believe, for a first baseman. And a lot of teams would maybe put it fourth or fifth. The one time the Yankees really got away from first base defense in a long-term way was Jason Giambi, because they felt that his on-base, his power, his leadership made that a worthwhile trade-off. They got away from it a little with Voit, obviously, then pivoted to Rizzo because of what I'm talking about. So they also know, like any smart team knows, that defensive metrics are not ready yet to be taken very seriously. So you could look at Goldschmidt's defense and say that he wasn't a plus defender at first this year at Baseball Savant, but he was. Like, we watched the games. He's good out there. And Rice is learning. All the credit in the world to Ben Rice. Oh, my God, he's learning first base in the major leagues over the past couple of years. It's incredible. But the Yankees can't make him their everyday first baseman. Well, they can, but it would be against their value system of a sneaky way you win is by having a guy that can pick it at first base. So the answer there, I think, is to have Rice keep working at it. He really was not very good at the scoops on the low Volpe throws. It all comes together, right? It all connects, the different parts of the diamond. Volpe's arm is short. Goldschmidt's playing. Volpe doesn't have an error. Rice is playing. Volpe maybe has an error because Rice doesn't scoop it as well. He got better at that. And he works hard. He might be able to get better continuously over the course of his career with this. So I think the way to do that is to replace Goldschmidt with a guy that can play defense at first. I mean, maybe as a defensive replacement type. Maybe Bellinger is that guy. I understand there's not a platoon advantage there, but you could always move Bellinger to first base in the late innings or give him the occasional start at first base. He's a plus defender there, too. Came up as a first baseman, as obviously you know. Rice probably is suited to the role that he's in now, which is a weird role. You are the backup catcher / most of the time first baseman / DH. It's not a common job in baseball, but I actually think it works for him, and that's how the Yankees should probably think of it.
Am I crazy to think Ben Rice has 40 home runs in him next year or soon thereafter?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not crazy. No, this guy's a legit middle of the order major league bat. We see how hard he hits the ball. He's got a plan up there, good at bats, hits it hard. They got to find the at bats, but I think it might be, like I said, might be less about settling in, like, all right, let's figure out what his long-term position is and settle in there versus, hey, this works. What he's doing now, it's not normal. Your backup catcher is usually a JC Escara type, not usually the guy who sometimes catches and also hits 40 from first base. But hey, this is who Ben Rice maybe is. He's a bat who you got to find at bats for. And I don't love him every day at any position, so why not move him around?
That's a great take. One thing the Yankees definitely need to work on is improving the bullpen. I think it would just, given the state of, the coronary situation in America, a lot less heart attacks with a much more reliable bullpen. Devin Williams got off to a bad start, no doubt about it. But there's also no doubt that he was tremendous in September, and he had some really big outs in the postseason. Is there a chance the Yankees bring him back? And to solidify this bullpen, I mean, are there internal options? Do they maybe take a couple of these young starters, like a Legrand, like an Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, take some of these guys that are starters and do the old Mariano Rivera trick and put them in the bullpen as power relievers, the Phil Hughes trick, that type of thing?
I think they'd rather find – the answer to both of your questions is they'd rather find more under-the-radar guys. Really starting with, I guess, Chad Green. The Yankees pro scouts and analytics people, and then pitching, like Matt Blake and the pitching staff, have been unbelievable in their collaboration with finding relievers and turning them into studs. Sometimes it lasts, like in the case of Green or Tommy Kahnle. Kahnle was a veteran when they got him, but they really got a lot out of him for a couple of stints. Some guys don't last, like Ian Hamilton, but he gave them some good leverage in the meantime. So the Yankees would prefer not to spend big in free agency on relievers because they think they're good at doing it on a budget. I would probably categorize Williams in that respect. I wouldn't completely rule it out, but that was a pretty rough, bumpy year that they just nursed him through. Maybe you feel like, all right, we got through that challenging year with him. Do we really want to run that back? I could see them thinking that. mean, it wasn't just the start, right? He recovered from his bad start, and then he had a really rough patch again. Remember all the controversy? I want to say it was like August when Boone was using him in like the 5th inning, and everyone's like, "How could you use him in the 5th inning? He stinks." Boone's like, "I'm trying to keep him out of leverage, but like, you know, he's on the team." It was really bad late, and then it got great, like you said. I'm not sure I want to go back there if I'm them. And as far as their younger guys, I think that's a big decision, converting a promising starter into a reliever. You can tell yourself that it's temporary, but as we know in the case of a Jabba Chamberlain, sometimes temporary becomes permanent and you've blown a potential starting career. So that's never the first choice, I don't think, unless they've determined that a guy is going to be like a 2-pitch guy and should be a reliever. I don't think they want to move guys in and out of the bullpen, ideally.
Well, one more question here while I've still got you, and then I'll let you go. Jason Dominguez. This is a guy who, you know, was a top prospect. He obviously didn't play much down the stretch. He had that double in his final at-bat of the ALDS. I'm hoping that that's kind of a foreshadow of the guy we can look forward to playing next year. I joked that I think he's got more of a contact approach, and maybe that's why the Yankees don't like him. I thought he would have more power. He did have the 3 home run game, and occasionally he'll show big-time power. One thing that I think holds him back is he hits a lot of balls as a left-hander in the air to left field, which is not what you want to do as a player in Yankee Stadium. And obviously the right-handed bat struggled. What do you sense the Yankees are feeling internally about Jason Dominguez and his future next year? Is he going to take over as a full-time role, or is that something where they're thinking, oh, maybe we're not as high on him as we used to be?
Well, it's hard to be as high on him as one used to be, right? Unfortunately, it's been a couple of lost years, and he's had opportunities. He could have taken the job from Alex Verdugo last fall, and he just couldn't catch the ball enough to play in the playoffs over Verdugo. He had some runway this year. I mean, Trent Grisham just kind of went off. That was more about Grisham solidifying playing time in the outfield probably than it was about Dominguez, but he really hasn't had regular playing time, of course, or opportunity in quite a while. He's really talented. When we see flashes of it, we know. I never felt like I saw a flash of Clint Frazier it's like when you see it with Dominguez, you're like, wow, I see it. So they're certainly not ready to give up on him. Obviously, it's a terrible time to trade him. They are maybe drifting into that zone of like, oh, crap, we should have traded him when he had value if we're not going to use him. But they're not all the way there yet because, like I said, you can see that the talent's there. So I think the playing time will depend on, at the moment, they don't have any outfielders. They have Judge. Grisham's a free agent. Bellinger's a free agent, right? They literally, there's 600 at-bats right there for Dominguez, but they're going to do something in the offseason with the outfield. So until they do that, it will be hard for us to, I guess, identify exactly how many at-bats Dominguez is going to get and where and how. But that's kind of where it's at now, is that they're not off of him, but he certainly has become less central to the conversation around the Yankees than he was 2 years ago. There's no sugarcoating that.
Well, in the words of Fox Mulder, I want to believe. So thank you, Andy Martino. Go follow Andy on X. Read his column on the Yankees offseason blueprint. He reiterated a lot of stuff here, but there's some things we didn't touch on. Andy, I'm going to let you go. I got to give a word to the sponsor, then we'll be back to take some voicemails. Appreciate it.
All right, Derek, thanks.
All right, just a reminder that Pinstripe Territory is presented by Fox One, and all playoff coverage is brought to you by Fox One. You can watch the ALCS on Fox One right now. The Mariners beating the Blue Jays, and you know what? Right out of the gate, I was rooting for the Blue Jays, but the way they talked crap, some of you guys who called in kind of won me over. And also, I think it would be really cool. I was talking to Terrence about this, to see the Mariners go to the World Series and maybe even win their first World Series. That would be really cool for the city. I love their ballpark. The one guy I just can't stand to have any success because he always killed the Yankees was Randy Arozarena, but it's good to see him beating up on somebody else on other teams. And the Mariners, they have great pitching. They're going to be tough to beat. Yasevich started today for the Blue Jays and obviously did not have the kind of game that he had against the Yankees. He went 4 innings, 4 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. So that raised his postseason ERA up to 4.82. Vladimir Guerrero 0 for 3 in that game. And Julio Rodriguez and Polanco both went deep for the M's. So if you want to catch all of that, you can check it out on Fox 1, from MLB postseason to NFL on Fox to Big Noon Saturdays with Fox 1. You will get it all live. Start your 7-day free trial today. Offers are subject to change. Go to fox1.com for complete terms and conditions. Fox 1 streaming now. And as Doug Rouse says, their ballpark in Seattle is amazing. I actually played an MLB franchise with them one time just because I love their ballpark. So, all right, let's go ahead and take a few comments here. Reaction. Here's Mac.
Hi, Derek. This is Mac from Pennsylvania. I don't know what the offseason is going to bring. I know we had a better team this year than we had last year, but I'll just make this comment. When a team plays such fundamentally poor defense as we did this year and last year, that responsibility rests with the manager. The manager gets these players in spring training. He has several weeks to get them ready, and then his coaching staff and himself is responsible for the way they play. We played such fundamentally poor baseball. There is no doubt that the person responsible for that lack of good fundamental baseball play is Aaron Boone, and we need a replacement at manager. That's my comment.
Well, it is my understanding they're not going to replace Aaron Boone. He's got 2 years under contract. If they miss the playoffs next year, that's always a possibility. But otherwise, I can see them letting these 2 years, basically run out and maybe not firing him, but just not bringing him back the way they didn't bring back Girardi. That's kind of what it looks like to me, assuming the Yankees don't win a championship in the next 2 years. If they win a championship, you can expect Boone to get another extension. Here's John from Florida.
Hey, Derek. John from Florida. It's been well publicized that the Blue Jays beat the Yankees due to their hitting philosophy, putting the ball in play, making contact, putting the pressure on the defense. And you've mentioned that now that the Yankees have been eliminated, you're going to root for the Blue Jays because, it'd be nice to see Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly, get his first ring. I think what hasn't been talked about enough is that Mattingly's role with the Blue Jays is as the hitting coach. And as a player, he had one of the lowest strikeout rates in baseball and won a batting title simply because he makes contact and puts the ball in play. And I think that, it's underrated or not talked about enough how much of a significant contribution his role with the Blue Jays is playing.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there. Mattingly is not the hitting coach. Mattingly is the bench coach. Their hitting coach is David Popkins. Now, Mattingly was the hitting coach for the Yankees back in 2004. I remember when the Yankees got A-Rod and Sheffield, the talk was, how great the lineup was going to be. And I remember they asked Mattingly, what are you going to do with this lineup? How are you going to make them better? And he said, my job now is a bus driver. I just got to get everybody to the ballpark. But I always liked his philosophy of you want to maximize the hot streaks and keep them going for as long as possible and minimize the cold streaks for as long as possible. That's how he saw hitting. And that's in stark contrast to what the Yankees even believe now, which is they don't believe hot or cold are a thing, which I totally disagree, which is, it's easy to see when someone's ice cold, their swing is off balance. They're just, watch a red hot Stanton and watch an ice cold Stanton and tell me hot and cold don't exist. I don't buy it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Thanks again to Andy Martino. Like, subscribe. I'll be back later on this week with Frankie Baseball to talk a little Yankees Mount Rushmore. Until then, we'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this content, please hit that like button and subscribe. Check out NYYDesigns.shop for some great merch. Support our sponsors. It helps keep the show going. And you can find us on all major audio platforms, so be sure to subscribe there too. But most importantly, come back again soon. We'll see you next time.